Well, hello everyone. Welcome to season 1, episode 6 of A Haircare Affair. I'm your host, Mrs. Cedrica L. Steele Davis, and let's get this show on the road. Today's episode, we're going to talk about hair breakage, hair loss, and alopecia. First, before we do that, before we get in today's episode, we're going to recap from the first 5 episodes before this one. Okay? We talked about initially, what brought all of this about was, what if we are, shut down and in the house, or what if you can't get to your beautician? What if your beautician can't get to you? What are you going to do with your hair? That's what the question was I posed at first. What are any of us going to do with our hair? And so once we talked about that initial problem, that in the event of, what would we do with our hair? Second episode, we talked about products, different types of products, different type of solutions you could do in case you are, stuck doing your hair yourself, such as using products like concocted with food, as conditioning treatments or whatnot, or using products such as the Shea Beauty products. Like if you have hair like mine, natural or even relaxed, I personally, as a stylist, think that you can use those products with relaxed hair. You just need to know which ones to use. But we talked about, shampoos and conditioners, as well as detailing products, products that maintain your hair and health, such as oils and leave-in conditioners. Just stuff that, you could at least put on your hair to help maintain your hair's health and elasticity. Now, on the third episode, we talked about hairstyles. The fact that you can do stuff like this. You can do silk presses, weaves, just a plethora of stuff that even wash and goes, where you just wash it, shampoo it. That is the correct term to use in the field of cosmetology, and that is to shampoo your hair, and you wash the dishes or you wash clothes, but you shampoo your hair. So we talked about, stuff along those lines. When you do a shampoo and go, which is to merely shampoo it, condition it, and put a product on that defines the curl pattern, and go. That's it. On the 4th episode, we talked about styles. Whether you do, I think I messed up. So the first episode was, what would you do with your hair? The second episode was different type of products that you can use. The third episode was different type of styles, including extensions. Like I said prior, the shampoo and goes, twist outs, what have you. Now, on the 4th episode, we talked about, what is hair? What's the purpose of hair? What is hair and its chemical composition, its chemical makeup? Why do we even have hair? And why it is such an important thing to take care of it because of its chemical makeup. It requires you to give it a little tender love and care. And on the 5th episode, we talked about I have gotten off of my notes some kind of way, but that's okay. I'm going to recover. I'm going to go back because I believe in doing it correctly. The first episode, we talked about what would any of us do if we had to do our hair ourselves. The second episode, we talked about products. That's 2. The third episode, we talked about styles. That's 3. The fourth episode, we talked about adding extensions. So that's where I got off at, because I ended up combining styles with extensions, but no, styles is 3 and extensions is 4. And on the 5th episode, that's when we got down to the trichology, or the theory behind hair. Like, what is hair, what is it made out of, and why do we need it? Now, on tonight's episode, we're talking about breakage and hair loss and alopecia. Now, what are some of the reasons that we have hair breakage? I'll tell you one. Sometimes when we're using things like rubber bands or the little knockers that you put on the little girl's hair, sometimes we just put those things on entirely too tight. We wound them around the ponytails or at the base, the root of the braid or the twist, just extremely too tight. Now, I've seen people that actually have started putting their rubber bands in oil. They let them soak in oil and then they use them. And I think that's an excellent idea. But even with that, you still want to make sure that you don't wound it around at the base, the root, too tight. Because in the long run, that definitely will result in hair loss or hair breakage. Now we're going to talk about braids and extensions that may be done too tight. And what I mean by that is, have you ever seen somebody's braids and right here along the hairline, which is where we have our lanugo hair, aka baby hair. It's called lanugo hair. That hair is that fine, soft hair that's around everybody's hairline. Have you ever seen that pull so tight that it's like it's screaming, help me? Well, that is definitely another reason that, you may inquire hair breakage, because sometimes it just be braided too tight. You have to be cautious and mindful with the tension that you use when doing braids, even with and twists, because I've seen some twist is so tight that it's like, wow. I mean, it's neat and it looks good, but it's like, wow, that has to be painful because it is just pulled so tight. Now we're going to talk about maybe the product is too strong. Okay, have you ever seen or have you ever known of somebody get a super relaxer and they really don't need a super relaxer? Well, let me tell you something about super relaxers. Me personally, I really don't think that they are necessary. I have been able to use a Mazzani mild and straighten out a person's hair that had extremely coarse hair. To me, it's all about application and procedure, which are all things that you learn going to cosmetology school, preparing for state board. But if you apply it correctly and then follow the correct procedure when smoothing the product or smoothing the wave pattern out, you should get a pretty good straightened strands. Your tresses should be pretty straightened, but again, I've had to correct people's hair where they have gotten super relaxers and they just completely damaged their hair, whether it broke it, whether it created a actual naked spot, where it damaged the actual scalp. Now that is serious business right there. But personally, I don't think anyone needs a super relaxer, even though I've had people to request it anyway, and I've give them my professional opinion, and they say, well, I want to do it anyway, and I give them all the rundown of the risks, the pros, the cons that comes with it. And this person hair was just extremely tough, so it was able to endure and not break at all. And that's one thing about a good thick head of hair. You can do pretty much anything to it and it stand right there, no breakage, no slip, no nothing. But that all goes back to client consultation, where you sit down and you have a conversation with your client, and you inspect their hair and scalp, and then you propose what would be the best thing for that particular person's hair. So be mindful of products. Even styling products sometimes can be too strong. You just have to make sure that you know that person's hair, or that because we're talking about you doing your own hair. You need to know your own hair and make sure you're not putting anything on it that is too strong. Another reason could be no variation of style. Now, have you seen somebody who wears their hair back in a ponytail all the time in the same spot, whether it be back here or up here or over to the side? But they wear their hair in the same way, not down, but I'm talking about pulled up in something, when you using a rubber band or some type of knocker, the little barrette things, and you pulling it whichever way. You know, if you pull it in that way with that particular item all the time, you are going to acquire some hair breakage in that area. So it's always good. If you just a simple person that like ponytails, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's always good to move that ponytail around sometimes. Change it from back here to up here, or maybe if it sits right here at your occipital bone, then you might want to pull it down closer to your nape. Just change it up so it won't get so used to it and, pop, because that's what happened. It keep going back in the same way, and then you notice your strands are popping, or you notice as you comb your hair, you're getting more and more strands. You need to change it up sometimes. Now, another reason, which I think we pretty much kind of touched base on, is pulling and tugging. Pulling and tugging. Now, if you get I give you a great, you can categorize that with something that we've previously talked about, but I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about pulling and tugging with glue. Whether that be the lace front wigs. Have you seen someone's hairline just ate up? It's just gone. And the hair follicles are so damaged that that's not going to grow back. Even if you can get some of it to grow back, a lot of it is not, because the bulb, the hole where the bulb sits is just damaged. If you look and you can still see the holes, you have a chance. But if it's slick, 9 times out of 10, it's over with for it growing back in that area. Even with techniques where you use the black glue, you gel it down, or you braid it down, put the cap on, or no cap, or however you decide to build that foundation, the pulling and tugging of the glue, removing it, all of that can induce hair breakage and hair loss. And there are people that do these things over and over and over and over again. And some while ago, when I was first coming up during cosmetology school in high school, and when I first went to cosmetology school in college, we talked to a lot of instructors. And one instructor told me that there is a difference between a cosmetologist and a hairstylist. A cosmetologist is going to take the time and care about the health and the maintenance of your hair, and she or he's going to give you a great style as well. But you have those people that do not care what your hair look like. They just gonna style it so they can get paid and get you in, get you out, get the next one in, get the next one out. And I've come to find out that is true. That is very true. It's okay to have techniques and get them installed or be able to do them yourself, but it is detrimental that you remove that stuff correctly, because the pulling and the tugging of that glue on your hair will definitely, oh my God, I am a living witness because I've done it to myself. It will definitely break your hair. So make sure you use some type of oil or something. And also, I am going to recommend, in my personal professional opinion, if you're not going to go the extra mile to remove it correctly, then wear those particular styles at a minimum, and that will keep the damage down to a minimum. Next, we're going to talk about not taking care of it. That's a quick, surefire way to cause it to break. You got to take some time with that hair sometime. If it's one day out the month, but a great routine would be every 2 weeks, every week, every 2 weeks. It just depends on your personal preference of how you wear your hair and your funds, what you are able to do with your hair. All of that makes a difference. So I'm just going to say, invest in a great shampoo, invest in a great conditioner, and invest in great pomades, and you'll be good. That's an excellent way to take care of your hair. That's the basics. Of course, it gets more intricate, but that's the basics. A great hydrating shampoo, a great moisture balance conditioner, whether it be cream or leave-in, and then some pomades that promote growth and great hair maintenance. Another way that you can inquire hair breakage or hair loss is medication. So many times people don't realize that the medication that they take can play a huge role in hair breakage. Even one medication, can be enough to cause hair breakage. But, there are a lot of people that take multiple medications and they end up, acquiring hair loss. So when it's like that, don't stop taking your medications. Just do more detailed hair maintenance routines. That means take that 30 minutes or hour to 30 minutes, part your hair and place that conditioning product on there, part it section through section from root to end, comb it through, put a bag on it, and sit up under the dryer for 30 minutes. Or do housework for 30 minutes. If you're relaxed, 15 minutes is good enough. But normally with natural hair, 30 minutes is the time frame. Or as we discussed in previous episodes, you can put the plastic cap on, drench a big towel in hot water, squeeze it out, and wrap your hair in it for 30 minutes. That'll generate heat to allow that product to be accepted into your hair strands. So just know, when you take a lot of medication, or if you even take one medication and you notice hair breakage, go ahead and start right then trying to look into treatments, two-step treatments, protein. A two-step treatment is a protein and a moisture balance treatment. That's the one I recommend for people that take medication and are experiencing hair loss from the medication that they take daily. Remember, don't stop taking your medication now. You actually also might want to ask your healthcare provider, could you start taking a multivitamin or a vitamin that is geared toward hair growth, that includes biotin or omega-3s, fatty acids that promote hair growth. Now, our last point is heredity. Sometimes it's just in our bloodline that, to inquire hair loss or hair breakage at some point in life. Sometimes it's just like that. And when it's like that, I still recommend, a thorough, maybe you take something internally and do something topically on the outside, that will help try to strengthen your hair to prevent it from breaking. Sometimes it just breaks anyway, but I am the type of beautician that likes to give it my all before I just say, hey, this is what's going on. This seems like a hereditary condition, and it seems like you will have some lifelong effects of it, you know, because sometimes it's like that. You just have to be honest and say, hey, this is something else. You know, it's not your typical hair breakage reasons, but this is something else, and you get down to the bottom of it. And when you have done all you can physically and professionally with theory, that's when you have to just step back as a beautician and refer that person to a dermatologist or a healthcare provider that may be able to further give them instruction on what to do when they are dealing with hair loss from a hereditary standpoint. Last but not least, we are going to talk about alopecia and types of alopecia. Now, alopecia can be hereditary, or alopecia can be brought on from chemo, or alopecia can be brought on from traction, which is pulling and tugging. Now, the first type of alopecia we're going to talk about is alopecia areata. Now, that is an autoimmune disease that causes hair loss in patches or in total on the scalp or body. The main types of alopecia areata are patchy alopecia areata, the most common type where hair loss occurs in one or more corn-sized patches. Now, that particular alopecia is typically hereditary. That means it is passed down from generation to generation. And those typically be one of those type of alopecias where it pretty much is not going to grow back unless you do some type, unless you go to the dermatologist and they refer you to some type of hair plug or hair replacement treatment, which I have saw great results with that. So that is you're not out of the running. There is an option, but typically that's hereditary. Okay, the second type of alopecia is the alopecia that is brought on from chemo or from chemo treatment. That type of alopecia is typically temporary. And what that means is your hair may come out initially, but it eventually grows back. And the third type of alopecia that I'm going to talk about is traction alopecia, which is the type of alopecia that a lot of people face today, and it is brought on from pulling and tugging of the hair. Too tight hairstyles like braids that are just screaming at the hairline. Too tight glue-ins or quick weaves, because sometimes you can also put those in tight. I'm sorry, I had to clear my screen out. What else? Too tight ponytails, like little girls. I've seen little girls, their hair still be pretty, but the edges be just pulled all the way back. That child has either had braids 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 times back to back that were too tight, or even one time. Some babies' hair is so fine that even one time of them getting some braids that's too tight is enough to cause some severe damage around their hairline, and sometimes it just doesn't grow back. So we must keep that in mind, because traction alopecia is real. It's the type of alopecia brought on by the lace front, where a lot of their front, the whole front is just pushed back. That's traction alopecia. That type of alopecia can be avoided. But sometimes after that damage, because it's not brought on by medication and it's not brought on by hereditary, it's not hereditary. That type of alopecia, that's the worst kind. I mean, it can be avoided. So be mindful of the tension you use when wearing your hairstyles. All right, that's going to bring our segment this week to a close. Make sure to join us next week for season 1, episode 7 of A Hair Care Affair. Before I close out, I will insert a slide that will show you. It is a breakdown and and it's got the definitions of different types of alopecia, and I will also insert a natural hairstyle where you can see the stylist didn't use any rubber bands, but you can see where that is a non-tension hairstyle. The stylist braided it up and then they twisted it, and then they used the Shea Beauty products to enhance the style. I want to thank you again for tuning in. Remember, love on one another. Love yourself. Take care of yourself and be careful out there. Be careful out there. Until next time, pow! See you later. Bye.